more and more scientific studies have shown a more sustainable model can be just as profitable and can meet our needs for the future. Farms and agricultural operations here in California are doing innovative things to create more sustainable practices. We will hear from two of them today. But let me clarify what I mean when I talk about sustainability. First, let's talk about economic sustainability. An agricultural operation should be a profitable business that contributes to a robust economy. Through improving operations and supporting natural ecosystems, a business can better reduce their costs. Through providing a high-quality, sustainable product, a business can better meet their customers' demands, increase their market share, and sustain operations through bottom-line results. A business that does not focus on their balance sheet will not be around for long. Sustainability also has a social impact. The business deals fairly with its workers, invests time and resources to build a mutually beneficial relationship with the surrounding community. A socially sustainable business will unlock new markets, attract business partners, and most importantly, have engaged employees. And of course, what often comes to mind when the word sustainability is used is the environment. The stewardship of the natural systems and resources, including the land and the animals that farms rely on. This stewardship involves managing both energy and water wisely, minimizing air, water, climate pollution, building and maintaining healthy soil. Today, we're going to hear from local businesses which are putting environmental stewardship into action, as well as a third speaker with some specific ways to support businesses becoming more operationally efficient, as well as contributing to their bottom line. They're using state-of-the-art, science-based practices that maximize productivity and profit while minimizing environmental impacts. So as you're listening to these speakers talk about environmental sustainability, listen to how economic and social sustainability are related to this work. Businesses that create good working conditions for their employees, suppliers, and are in partnership with their community will find sustainable success. Environmental, social, and economic sustainability efforts all work together towards creating strong and more vibrant businesses. I'm excited, and MCE is excited to present these local businesses which are leading their industries to build a better world for us all. Next. So a quick overview of the agenda. We have speakers from Opus One Winery, Superior Farms, as well as CLEAResult. Again, we'll take one or two questions after each speaker. Please put them in the chat and we'll get to the rest of them at the end. First, I'd like to introduce Nathalie. So next slide. Nathalie Buckland is the Director of Viticulture at Opus One Winery. Opus One Winery is a deep green champion of MCE, receiving 100% renewable energy. And we're very excited to have her present on the innovative work she's doing at her vineyards. Nathalie, please go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you, Martin, for your kind introduction, and thank you for MCE for having me today with you. I'm very excited to share with you a little bit about what we do at Opus One. So next slide, please. I'm gonna, so as Martin said, I'm the Director of Viticulture at Opus One. I've been with the winery since 2004. I did a couple of internships and had different positions throughout my career here at Opus One, and I'm very excited to share with you more in details what we do in the vineyards, but also in the winery and the facilities. Next slide, please. So Opus One Winery is the dream that came true from two men. Baron Philippe de Rothschild, who was a pioneer in Bordeaux, and Baron Robert Mondavi, who was really one of the leaders here in Napa Valley. And they met in the 70s and decided quickly to work on a project together. In 79 was the first vintage of Opus One. They wanted to make a wine, a Bordeaux blend that was a nice representation of the two cultures, French and American, but also they wanted that wine to have its own personality and its own character. So we're located in Oakville, so in the heart of Napa Valley. And we own and farm 4 different estates located all in Oakville. And we farm the 5 border varieties, which are mainly, it's mainly Cabernet Sauvignon, and then we have some Cabernet Franc, some Merlot, some Malbec, and some Petit Verdot. Next slide, please. So our 2 founders really wanted people to enjoy the wine, to share with their friends and their family, but also they wanted employees to be the stewards of the wine, the winery, and the land that we are in. And we feel today that we are the stewards of the environment. We are deeply concerned with our collective future. We recognize that our practices benefit the winery, but they also benefit our neighbors and our customers. The culture and our internal practices reflect on our commitment to conservation and responsible consumption in the areas of energy, water, waste management, transportation, purchase, and food. We've been certified as a Napa Green winery as part of the Napa Valley Vintners and part of the Napa Green Initiative. And we are implementing more than 100 favorable and environmentally friendly procedures. So our 4 estate vineyards are farmed organically. Next slide, please. We're really 100% committed to ensure a sustainable future for us, for our children, for our grandchildren, for our community. And we really want to make sure that there's a minimum impact on what we do, especially knowing the future that we have with the global warming and other challenges that we faced in the agriculture world. Next slide, please. So first of all, we've been doing a lot of different actions over the past year, and there's a lot more for us to do. But I just wanted to point out a few elements that are, I think, key in our activity. So in the vineyards, next slide, please. We, in 2006, we started farming biodynamically 1/3 of our vineyards. The idea was to know with our own experience, with our own knowledge, the impact of these practices in our own vineyards. And we learned a lot from them, and we did this from 2006 through 2016, so a 10-year experiment, if I may say that, and kept the best of it. And so we actually learned a lot from farming organically, and especially fighting pest for our vines with organic products. And so we extended our organic practices to all our vineyards in 2010. And so here on this picture, you see part of the cultivation that we do throughout the season. We do not use herbicide. It's been years and years that we haven't done worked with herbicide, and we have these over-the-road tractors that are called Bobard. They come from France. And a little bit scary to look at because you're really above the canopy, but they're quite handy because we can do multiple activities at the same time. We can mow under the vine and in the vine row at the same time. We can cultivate 2 or 3 rows at the same time, and they're very efficient. We do less passes also with that and limit compaction in our vineyards. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, one big step for us to move fully organic was to handle all the pests, so insect and fungus with organic products. And here is a photo of Alfredo, one of our Opus One employees, who in 2010 was spreading pheromones in the vineyards. At that time, we had the threat of an insect called European grappa moth. And this little insect was feeding on the berry, and at the end of the season you could have berries that had a little worm inside, and this is not ideal, especially if you get a little rainy season or a little late season with a little rain, then you get development of mold on these berries. So it's really not ideal. And here you see Alfredo attaching these pheromone strips that help for confusing the males. So they felt like they were females flying around with their smell, and they actually were just pheromone spread on a stick. So they could not mate. And so it's really a way to diminish population naturally and with very low impact. Next slide, please. One big element that we're looking at is our carbon and the carbon farming of our vineyards. Carbon is key for the health of our plants, for the health of our soils. And our goal is to be carbon negative or carbon positive in the future. And so we're trying to implement different ways in our day-to-day practices how we can reach that point. And so in 2000 until 2003, we were burning, but then at that time we realized that burning the vines or the brush material from pruning was really impacting the air quality of the valley. And so in 2015, we became very aware of the low smoke impact practices and the benefit of producing biochar. So in 2017, we did our own burn and generated some biochar. So biochar is a charcoal, and we call it the Tokalan truffle. Tokalan, it's because this is the area where our vineyards are located, and truffle because it's just like a truffle. It facilitates the uptake of water and nutrients. And so we were so amazed with the benefits of this low smoke burn that we continued our research. And in 2020, we were part of a demonstration for an air burner that took place earlier last year. And we're very impressed with the quality of the burn because there were very little smoke being generated. And we had an extra compound that was the biochar. So in 2020, last year in May, we pulled out about 12 acres of vineyards. And in the past, we were just shredding all this material. And this year we started to burn all the material. We hired a contractor who came with the air burner and burn out all our vines. The idea of the air burner, it's like a box, and you pull the vine material in, and the fire is taking place inside that box, but there is an air curtain on top of the box. So any particle that tries to escape from that box is actually trapped inside. So there's no smoke. It's a very clean burn, and you get a secondary product, which is the biochar. So we were so impressed with the quality of the burn, the safety aspect of the burn, that we decided to buy our own unit earlier this year. So that's the picture that you see. It's a much smaller unit compared to the ones we used last year that you can just haul with a truck. And we used it this year to burn about a third of our brush material after pruning. And the biochar is the pile that you see in the middle. And in my hand, you see the charcoal, the biochar that we generated from that. And this we will be able to reincorporate it into our vineyards. And next slide, please. We will combine it to our compost. So we've been making our own compost since 2006. So every year we make a new vintage, if I may say that. And this year we're excited to be able to combine the biochar with the compost. So compost is usually brush material, cow manure, a little bit of soil, and some hay that we take care of for about a year and a half or so before applying in the vineyards. The interest of the compost is bringing more macronutrients or micronutrients to the soil with a very slow release. It's also a great place for microbial activities that we are incorporated in our soil. Next slide, please. Another way for us to trap more carbon in our soil is to seed cover crop. And there are multiple choices, multiple options of cover crop depending on the goal that you try to achieve. But this is a natural way to bring more nitrogen to our soil, to attract beneficial insects, and bring more diversity around our vineyards. So we've also established some hedgerows, and we've worked with the Napa County Resource Conservation District to help us put a plan together to develop that carbon farming in all our vineyards. Next slide, please. So water is also a key element that we look at and consider, especially with the last couple of vintages that was very, very low amount of rainfall that we received. Water is like gold today for us, and so the management of the water is very key. So we are doing a few things, such as irrigating at night. There is a limitation of evaporation at that time, and so all the water that you apply is really for the plant itself. Then we also add drip emitters on our irrigation lines. So they're located on each vine, and we make sure also they're not plugged. They're also on the line, but this is really key to give each vine the right amount of water. We also installed quite a few years ago a second drip line. So that second drip line is only for young plants or replants that are located in a row. So for each row, you've got these two irrigation lines. Only emitters are on these young vines, and on a weekly basis, we can target these young vines only. And when the other production vines show water stress, that's when we decide to turn on the other line of irrigation and really give water to the vines that actually need it. So we are managing the quantities of water that we are applying on a regular basis. We also make our irrigation decision based on the water stress of the plant by walking the vineyards, touching the leaves, looking at the weather forecast, looking at the phenological stage we're at. We also use a pressure pump. It's like measuring the blood pressure of a human being, except it's on the vine, and that helps us, guides us to make our decision for water stress on the different varieties. Our sprayers also that are set up on these over-the-road tractors that you saw a little bit earlier in my presentations are also really targeting the vine, and the amount of water that we use per acre is way smaller than any other, I think, rate of application that we can see in the valley. So that's another way to save water and limit the amount of water that we're using. We're also collecting groundwater. We've got drainage system all around our vineyards, and so this water is being collected and sent through our reservoir, and that reservoir holds the water that we'll then use in the future for our irrigation. And the building where my office is, we are actually now collecting the water from the roof. So there's no water wasted, and all this water is being collected and going directly in our reservoir. Next slide, please. So this was a very quick overview of what we've been doing in the vineyards, but also in the cellar. We've been focusing a lot on water and carbon. So next slide, please. The water is really the key. So the management, we have different ways of saving and or recycling water. So we use flow meter to track our water usage. We use low flow nozzles for cleaning our tanks and our barrels in the cellar. The floors are also cleaned with high pressure, low volume cleaning equipment. With shut-off nozzles, we come also with a spongy rather than just using the hose and pushing all the material with just the hose. And all this processed water is actually collected and redirected to our reservoir. So then we can reuse that water for future irrigation. We've been also, we started working on carbon sequestration, and I think we're at the stage where we figure out how to get the carbon out of the building. And now we are working on how to actually solidify that carbon. And so this is a trial that we're gonna start this year during harvest. Next slide, please. So in the winery facilities, next slide, please. We also, over the last few years, done a ton of things for saving energy, using also renewable energy. And we, like Martin mentioned earlier, we are now 100% supplied by wind and solar power. So we're very, very excited about that. And we intend to get solar panels in the future. We also intend to be a net zero user of purchased electricity by 2030. We have parking that has also charging stations for electrical vehicles for employees, but also for guests. So we feel like it's one step. We're looking at maybe getting hybrid vehicles for the employees to work here on the in the vineyards. That's, I think, coming in the future. We've also done a ton of work on composting and recycling with employees. It's not an easy thing to do, to really explain what goes into recycling and what goes into composting, and just the regular trash. But we've been doing a tremendous work on that. We are composting our food. We also no longer have plastic bottles. We have water stations and everybody comes and fill their water bottle or their cup, but there's no more plastic. We've got a lot of recycling programs. We try to also limit papers and paperwork and use more computer items. We also have low flow, some touchless faucets and fixtures with auto shutoffs to prevent wasted water. We have also a ton of LEDs that we changed and installed in our winery. We're also looking on the shipping aspect, trying to use materials that are recycled. And so we've been also working a lot over the last 3 years, I would say, with that. And we have material that we use today. So thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity, and let me know if there's any questions.
Nathalie, thank you very much for your presentation. That's amazing, the amount of work that's going on in the vineyards and in the facilities. I think we're going to go ahead and hold the question till the end so we can move on to our next presenter. So next slide, we have Anders Hemphill, Vice President of Marketing and Brand Strategy at Superior Farms. They have a very well-known facility in Dixon, California. And Anders, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk more about the great work you're doing there.
Great. Thank you very much, Martin. Thanks for having us. And we're excited to share a little bit about what Superior Farms is doing, not only from our business standpoint, but what we're doing to really positively impact the environment, and kind of define our view of sustainability as well. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about Superior Farms. We are the largest processor of American lamb, which is another way of saying we're a big fish in a very small pond. So if you look at the per capita consumption of different proteins in this country, Americans eat on average about 100 pounds of chicken, about 50 pounds of pork, and about 60 pounds of beef. per year, and about just a little over 1 pound of lamb. So we are relatively small. That's not true for much of the rest of the world that eats more lamb typically. But lamb is still a fairly niche protein in this country. But we are very proud to partner with over 1,000 family farms throughout the American West, as far east as Minnesota and South Dakota, all the way up through the Pacific Northwest, down through Southern California and the Southwest of the United States. And as an organization, we are not breeding those sheep and raising those sheep, but we partner with these family farms and help to bring their lamb to market. We are a 100% employee-owned company. That means that everyone from the corner office to the plant floor has quite literally a stake in the company. One of the benefits of that is that you really have people that stay here for a long period of time, which isn't always the case in the meat packing industry. But there are people who have been cutting meat at our facility in Dixon, for example, since the mid-1980s. Which is pretty remarkable. And, the benefit to our customers and our consumers is that those folks are really world-class at what they do. So that allows us to be able to put a really high-quality product out to the market, to our customers, to our consumers. We are the sole supplier of lamb to retailers such as Kroger, Walmart, and H-E-B. As well, here in Northern California, you can see our brands at Rayleigh's supermarkets, as well as Lunardi's, Draeger's, Oliver's, Molly Stone's, and stores like that. So we are very happy to partner with those retailers, but also to many food service distributors as well. Next slide, please. So our sustainability commitment really, I think when we think of why we are doing this, well, obviously, we all have to live on this planet. We all have to share this environment. It's important for us to be thinking not just in terms of our own lives, but the lives of our children and our grandchildren. And I think that when I talk about our commitment, that goes beyond our organization, but down through the ranchers that we partner with. Stephen Osguthorpe is one of the ranchers that we work with. He's based out of Park City, Utah. We did a video with him that's on our website. You can take a look if you like. But one of the points that he makes in that video is that, hey, we see ourselves as the steward of the land, and if we don't take care of the land, it won't take care of us. So it's really incumbent upon all of us to do everything we can to preserve the precious environment that we have. Also, consumers are increasingly aware and concerned about this, and our customers as well, as they respond to those consumers. So companies like Walmart and Kroger and H-E-B and a lot of these other larger retail organizations are putting very specific programs in place. Walmart has their Project Gigaton, which is really about eliminating carbon from the atmosphere, and they're relying upon their partners like us to help them deliver against those goals. So that way, we're really all working together towards some of these efforts. Next slide, please. So when we really, a couple of years ago, set out to say, okay, we need to kind of define what our commitment to sustainability really looks like, we really narrowed in on these 4 pillars. One is the environment, and as Martin said, typically when people talk about sustainability, that's the first thing that they really think of. So that is certainly very important, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing on that front as well. But also animal care. It's increasingly important to consumers and to everyone really, that the animals that are used for food sources, or in our case also wool, are treated with care and respect, are properly fed, properly raised in an environment that is suitable for them, provides the nutrition that they need, and that when they do come to our facilities, that they are handled in such a way that, is low stress, and keeps them as relaxed as possible. For those of you who are aware of Temple Grandin, she is a very renowned animal scientist from Colorado State University. She has won awards both from the meat industry, but also from animal rights groups as well, which is a pretty interesting Venn diagram if you think about that. But she, interestingly, is autistic, and so one of the areas that she really is able to have an intense focus on is on kind of what animals see, what they react to, what they respond to. And so she's been responsible for redesigning many of the harvest facilities and feedlots and things like that around the world in ways that make it better for the animal. And that is better for everyone at the end of the day. And then the other pillar that we consider in our sustainability model is food quality and innovation. How can we continue to make sure that the products that we're bringing to market are of the highest quality, so that consumers basically have a safe and reliable and delicious source of food. And then lastly is people. Martin, as you mentioned before in your opening comments, sustainability also has to extend to economic sustainability. So for the ranchers that we partner with, how do we make sure that they're in a business that is sustainable, quite literally, so that they can continue to operate not only for this year and next year, but for future generations. And then also the people in our own facilities. Part of our employee ownership program, we really see as part of that sustainability. We are providing retirement opportunities for people as they have an investment in this company. And for the people the people who live in the communities in which we are operating. So those people are all dependent upon a livelihood that circulates around our business. So those are kind of the four pillars, and I'll talk a little bit about the environment piece next, I believe. So next slide, please. So yeah, as I mentioned, this is Stephen Osgathorpe, and he really takes this all to heart, as seeing us as stewards of the land. Next slide, please. So a few years ago, we implemented a wind turbine in our Dixon, California facility, and that was producing a fair amount of energy. And then next slide. And then a couple of years ago, we included solar panels. So those solar panels cover the parking structure as well as the roof of the facilities in Dixon, California. And between the solar and the wind, next slide, please. Those account for 95% plus of the energy that is required from those plants. So, we see this as a way of really kind of reducing our overall carbon footprint, taking advantage of these renewable resources to really power our facilities and bring good products to our consumers. Next slide, please. Also in our Denver, Colorado facility, in addition to our Dixon, California facility, we have a processing plant in Denver, Colorado. We've invested $3 million recently in upgrades for more efficient equipment. That's resulted in our ability to reduce our use of electricity by 28% and reduce of our use of natural gas by 54%. So we hope to continue. We think that there are still some great opportunities to become more efficient in Denver, and we continue to set some goals for that facility as well. One of the things that we've been able to do in that facility is, often boilers are used to provide steam for sterilizing equipment and for basically keeping everything bacteria free. We've been able to move away from boilers and to heat exchangers, which are 85% more efficient. And so that's one way that we're really able to to make an impact in Denver. So we've really kind of upgraded a lot of those, a lot of the tools and the pieces of equipment that we work with in Denver to use less fossil fuel energy. Next slide, please. Also, from a transportation standpoint, we are shipping our products around the country. There's a lot of use of trucks. Obviously, those trucks are rolling out of both Dixon and Denver, heading to all points across the country every year. So we've really taken a hard look at different routes that we are taking, and how many trucks that we need to use, and what kind of equipment we're putting on the road. And what we've been able to do is really reduce the use of diesel fuel by 140,000 gallons a year through some of those efficiencies. And that's increasing even more as we get more efficient trucks and continue to optimize routes. One example is that by eliminating one of those truck routes that we had, we're saving 6,000 miles a week. So, you know, that makes a big difference in terms of the impact on the environment. Next slide, please. Also, I think, you know, an important point that we always are like to make, somewhat self-serving, but by eating American lamb versus lamb that's imported, Australia and New Zealand are the big importers of lamb in this country. But by eating American lamb, we're supporting local American family farms, and we're also eating meat with a lower carbon footprint. It hasn't had to be shipped 10,000 miles across the Pacific, and has basically a better environmental story than the imported product. And plus, we believe it tastes better. So next slide, please. Yes, that's all I had. Look forward to your questions.
Awesome, Anders. I think, again, we're going to keep our questions to the end. Thank you very much for the presentation. And it's just amazing what you guys are doing out there in Dixon. It's great to hear the stories.
Thank you.
So our next speaker is Diana Chou. She works with MCE as part of our strategic energy management program. And she's going to talk about some specific energy opportunities for agricultural industrial operations in our area. So Diana, please take it away.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm Diana. I'm with CLEAResult. We've partnered with MCE to deliver the agriculture and industrial resources, or the AIR program. And it's an incentive program for energy efficiency projects. And so next slide, I'm going to be spending the next 10 or so minutes going over the benefits, the services offered, and the incentive options that are available to you through the MCE AIR program. Next slide. So first, I'll start with an overview of the program. Next slide. Thank you. So the AIR program is designed to help agricultural customers like yours to reduce your energy consumption and those associated costs while supporting your core business goals. So primarily improving your facility operations, the reliability of the equipment, and of course, efficiency. So as CLEAResult, we're here to guide you through the process of qualifying for available incentives, and to help find those incentives when you invest in energy efficiency measures. Next slide. So by partnering with MCE on this program, we're able to offer a lot of support through several avenues at no cost to you. So first is on-site energy assessments. We'll come on site to walk the sites with you and help to identify qualifying opportunities. We're also have a team to help estimate the energy savings and potential incentive dollars that you can get through the AIR program. And we're really here to help you meet you where your organizations are. So it's a tailored approach for all customers based on what you need. So we have a lot of experience with organizations, agricultural, industrial, and across the board, and have seen the gamut and hope to help you in your organization find opportunities. As mentioned as well, we also help with the application process to secure those incentives so that you can focus more on your business, because you know your business best, and we want to help you support to keep those businesses going. Next slide. So on your screen here is a kind of a wide range of the common projects that we have supported, offering technical assistance and managing that incentive process. And after this Power Hour, I'll be sharing some incentives that are currently being offered at a higher incentive level. But yeah, take a look here. There are a wide range of refrigeration projects, steam systems. I know we have some wineries here on the line. And so there's plenty of opportunities in the pumping and across the board and across the different processes. So next slide. I wanted to also go over the different incentive options that are offered through the program. So there's 3 avenues, and you're welcome to participate in any of these avenues, and CLEAResult's here to help you kind of guide you through which avenue is best for the projects or the desires that your organizations have. So one of the options is a deemed incentive. They're prescriptive energy saving measures with predefined savings, and they're widget based. So for example, if you install a VFD on a fan, you'll get a rebate for each of those units that you install, or for the horsepower, the size of that VFD. The next is a customized pathway. These are usually for larger projects that have a clear defined set of equipment that's installed, but they're usually easier to model those equipment changes, and they're usually project specific. And so if you're looking to replace some equipment, you would go through a customized pathway. And then the third pathway is strategic energy management. And that is more of an advanced, more comprehensive energy efficiency program where the energy savings come from operational and behavioral changes that are usually low or no cost. Next slide, I'll kind of go over these different pathways. So again, the simplest pathway is the deemed pathway. So for lower cost projects, if you're installing new equipment, the way that the program helps with that pathway is if you have, for example, equipment that you want to install, you can go ahead and install. We would help support you in determining which would be the most energy efficient option, as well as what would be the most functional for your facility. And once you install that widget, CLEAResult would help you collect the paperwork and submit the paperwork for an incentive. Next slide. The customized incentive pathway is a slightly longer pathway, but there's typically a higher incentive. And so this would require working with our team to help you identify those equipment upgrades and helping you submit the paperwork for a pre-approval through MCE. Then you'd be able to purchase and install the equipment. And then there would be a finalized paperwork for the incentive and a post-install measurement and verification process. And then the next slide I'll go over is the strategic energy management pathway. And that is a sub-program of the AIR program that has a long-term approach to energy efficiency. It includes goal setting, tracking progress, and reporting on results. And this program or sub-program is offered in a cohort style for similar organizations to get together and to discuss the benefits and learnings from peers similar to you. So a successful strategic energy management plan kind of builds off of those relationships with the energy users at your facility and helps you to target persistent energy savings. So an example here would be where we would help your organization look at low or no cost operational changes, behavioral changes, set point changes to the equipment that you already have in order to help you maintain persistent energy savings. And as I mentioned, it's a cohort-based pathway. So the real benefits are to learn from others like your other organizations like yours to make continuous improvements across your organization. And it's really a cyclical process in helping you uncover those opportunities. And also wanted to mention as well that we are currently recruiting for our third cohort. So upcoming, if this pathway or this program is of interest to you, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to give you a larger overview of the program. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, that this program is a more long-term approach, but there are several offerings through the program. Participants that are in the program are able to participate in workshops and site-specific activities where we talk through not only technical guidance on different equipment upgrades, but also through how to engage your staff and stakeholders in energy efficiency and getting them excited and helping them understand how it benefits them, but also benefits your organization. And so the program offers to help walk through your facility with you and points you in the direction of how we view energy usage and looking at your facility, looking at how you can save energy and kind of leading you to water so that in the future you can teach others in your organizations how to look for these opportunities so that you can work on maintaining your equipment, the integrity of your equipment, and helping your equipment run at its optimal performance, and really helping so that you're focusing on those operational changes and decreasing the frequency of having to change out that equipment because you're able to maintain your equipment and help it run better. So kind of multiple benefits to working on efficiency of your equipment. So next slide. And just to give an overall, besides the benefits that I mentioned before, of course, there's financial benefits. And so we've typically seen that the incentives that the CLEAResult team helps you go through typically covers about 10 to up to 50% of the project costs. And through the SEM program, we've also seen on an annual basis that organizations are seeing 5 to 10% energy savings. And so next slide, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have and hope to talk to you guys further about how we can help you save energy at your facilities.
Thank you very much, Diana. I just want to emphasize how important it is for many businesses who are looking at trying to reduce energy use, that having an energy coach is just the best way to really, drive savings, both on a really basic level of just, making sure that schedules for all the equipment are tight, and then also on capital improvements and having someone able to do the engineering calcs. I will, after the presentation is over, all three of the presenters' contact information will be sent out to all the folks on the call, so you'll have that information. But now I'd like to go into questions. Mariella, can you start reading off some of the questions that came in?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first question we got was for Nathalie, and it was, how do you deliver water from the roof to the reservoir?
Needed to unmute myself. So the building is not too far from the reservoir, so we just have pipes, and the water goes into a sump, and then the pump sends the water to the reservoir.
Thank you. And there was a second question directed at you, and it was, have you invested in electric infrastructure?
Yes, so we are definitely starting to look at electrical equipment. The challenge for us today is what is available, and the way our vineyards are planted. We are in very high density, and meaning that we have just 4 feet between the rows. So the equipment that we've looked at that is available today is too big to fit in our rows. So this is definitely an option that we are considering and looking at in the future, but right now in the market, there's nothing that we've seen so far that could fit our needs.
Thank you. And Diana, I have a question for you that just came through in the chat, and it's, how does CLEAR connect with businesses?
Great question. We're happy to work with you directly. And if you're interested in the program and you're working with your MCE representative, we're happy to hop on a call with you and work with you directly.
Thank you. And then this question is for all the panelists. So what advice would you give folks in the agriculture industry who want to start to implement more sustainable practices and are just kind of starting out?
Andrews, you want to take that first?
Sure. Yeah, you know, I think the important thing is to be bold in terms of setting some goals. You know, I think, and that's certainly something that, as we've worked with some of our customers like Walmart and Kroger, you know, they say, hey, you know, don't be afraid to kind of set a big goal for, you know, 10 years out. And you don't necessarily have to know exactly how you're going to get there. But, you know, be bold and, you know, start to make a plan and see what you can do. You can always go back and kind of revise it if you've put a stake in the ground that's, you know, too aggressive, you know, but at least kind of setting something out there and being ambitious, I think is an important way to start.
And then Nathalie?
I definitely agree with Anders. I think just not just going with what you're doing today is looking at options and things you can do. They seem to be maybe challenging to achieve, but setting up those goals is really the path that you want to take may have, you know, some challenges, and but if you have that goal set up, and then I would say also that making people that you work with, the employees, making them on board with what you want to achieve. So if people are on board, they will share with their family, they will share with their friends also what they're doing, and also look at potential things that people can do just at home. And little by little, like that, just the word goes out, and if people are convinced, then I think that's how we will all achieve and be able to reach a global goal, not just what a company is setting up.
Great. Diana, what's the first step if a business wants to start on this journey?
You know, I think it's just talking to other folks that are in a similar business and what you want to do, but also talking to us if you'd like to. We're happy to share. You know, no investment needed. Just happy to share information on what organizations have done in the past, and we're happy to meet you where you are as well. Just hearing what you're doing currently with your business, and being open to hearing what others are doing, and think we're all ears and would be happy to connect.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights, all. Another question, I think we have time for two more questions. And the first one is to reduce emissions and to switch to an all electric equipment. What would it take? And that's open to anyone on the panel.
Well, for us, it would take, being down to earth, but just the equipment that is available, to do the job that we're doing today. So we also, changing a little bit our practices to limit the number of passes of tractors, limit emissions like that, limit compactions. And then what it take, look in the future, having options, I think having more options for all of us.
I would also just add, I think that, as the rates of change and continue to accelerate, we're seeing more and more options like that. We're seeing electric trucks, we're seeing driverless vehicles and things like that. All these things are happening at a speed that it seems incomprehensible in some ways. But I think over the next 10 years, we're really going to start to see a dramatic transformation in terms of all of our businesses. I know our transportation and logistics teams are already looking at, what are the options for not only our own equipment, but equipment of our trucking partners, for example. And yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, our Dixon, California facility is almost entirely fueled by solar and wind. So that's a step in the right direction. How do we carve a path forward so that the rest of our facilities, really can replicate that success? And, it takes investment and it takes, the will to do that. But I think that the means are quickly becoming more and more available.
And I'll add on to that, kind of looking at the most energy efficient equipment and kind of aiming for the low hanging fruit, the biggest bang for your buck, so that when you're having a phased approach and finding equipment that is more energy efficient, replacing that and using the savings that come from that new equipment to reinvest in another project where you would be addressing that switch, that transition over to all electric equipment. So I would highly suggest a phased approach and looking at what the cost benefit analysis of changing out that equipment.
Thank you all. And then the final question of the hour, and we'll have future opportunities to continue to have conversations like this. But the final question is, are there any businesses that are using alternative to the consumers?
We lost you there, Mariella. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, and then are any of your businesses using alternative fuels or electrification to deliver your products to the consumers?
I would say for us, like I said, is at the plant level, yes, alternative fuels and solar and wind. But to date, currently, the transportation, actually delivering those to warehouses, to retailers, that's still done in a more traditional way. But I think the means are quickly becoming more available to change that.
Okay. Great. Well, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you all. Again, thank you very much to Anders, Nathalie, and Diana for presenting to MCE and our customers. We really appreciate your time. And again, MCE will send out the slides to all our attendees today. Thank you very much for being part of the MCE community, and we look forward to talking to you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.